Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
We welcome once again to the program Nathan Guy. Nathan, good morning to you.
Oh, morning, John. I was just listening to Elton John's song there. I went along the other night and watched Rocket Man, the movie, and I was considerably impressed. I thought it was amazing.
Amazing, no doubt about that. There have been some very good movies recently, and very good moves, I think, in the House of Representatives as well. I remember a few months ago, you and I were talking about climate change, and I asked you if you accepted the science, and you said yes. And you also said that National was working along to see if they could come to some kind of agreement on the zero carbon bill. It seems to have happened. It passed with near unanimous support in the House of Representatives, and I think this is a very important move. Would you agree?
Yes, it passed last night. I was in the House when it passed. I went up and congratulated James Shaw for the work that he'd done and the way that he had been very open with the National Party. We didn't get everything that we wanted. We still have some concerns. Those are around the methane target and curbing offsetting of forestry and sort of global action so that we don't get too far ahead of the pack. But we've said that if we're lucky enough to get into government in 2020, then we'll make those changes that we see necessary. In essence, what it does, the bill that passed yesterday, it sets up a climate change commission, and there'll be a panel of experts that will make recommendations to the minister and to cabinet. We've strengthened up quite a bit of the reporting, so it has to go back to Parliament, and it's different to the Reserve Bank powers, because when the Reserve Bank makes a decision, they have the utmost independence to be able to make the decisions that they see necessary. The Climate Change Commission will be able to recommend, but ultimately the government will be able to decide.
So an independent commission who would recommend a methane target, which you may or may not accept. Is that the story? The
methane target is actually in the legislation, minus 24 to minus 47% at 2050 and minus 10% at 2030. We think the bottom target over the next decade is achievable, but certainly the agriculture industry is saying, hold on, if the new technology doesn't turn up, we can't offset Air New Zealand or Z Energy or the big energy generators and just go and buy some farmland and plant it in trees. Farmers aren't able to do that with their methane exposure, so they rely heavily on the technology turning up.
Yep.
And if that doesn't, we have a real concern that what it will mean is a lot less stock in New Zealand, and that could have quite a detrimental impact on the New Zealand economy and jobs.
It does seem to be an implication of the general movement that we've reached peak cow in this country and possibly peak animal in this country. Is it a concern that we're going to run out of land to plant trees on?
Well, it's interesting. The Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment, Simon Upton, came into the select committee that I sat on, came in a couple of times, and the conclusion I took away from that, and that's why he's been quite concerned about curbing or restricting offsetting, which basically means you could have a sea of trees across New Zealand. And the numbers he gave us, he said if it's not restricted, you could end up with 3 million hectares of land in plantation forestry. Some of it will be natives, but most of it will be pine trees. 3 million hectares by 2075. That's the whole of the Otago region in trees. And when you say it to people like that, they sort of get it that that's a massive area. So you are right. There's a delicate balance that needs to be achieved here. And one of the fundamentals of the Paris Agreement was that food production should always be top of mind and protected. And, of course, there's not much fun in eating a pine tree, John.
Absolutely. And I have some concerns about pine trees going onto good productive land, because my understanding is a few generations of pine trees really rips the guts out of the soil, that you're not left with very much after you have trees there for an extended period. Is that correct?
Well, on hill country, a tree has been planted in terms of plantation forestry, i.e. pines, they never go back out. So what you're seeing, the government's changed the overseas investment rules to make it easier for foreign investors to come in and buy land and plant in trees, and that's what's happening particularly on the east coast of the North Island, so Wairarapa, Hawke's Bay, Wairoa, etc. They're all feeling the impact of that. And as a result, the spillover is that rural communities start feeling it. So the primary schools that are probably at a vulnerable number of kids and struggling to attract teachers, they start closing. That means the rugby club, the community hall and everything else gets impacted. So if we don't watch it, it's a hollowing out of rural communities, which I really worry about.
Me too, no doubt about that. And in a sort of related topic, I didn't actually see the Sunday program on TV1 over the weekend, but I did see the trailers or the advertisements for the program, in which several farmers said they were getting to the stage they didn't want to admit to being a farmer, and it almost seemed as if the farmers felt persecuted. And I thought, well, how jolly sad is that, and how unfair is that? Do you find in your travelling around the country that farmers feel as if they're under the gun?
Well, it's interesting. There's a big community protest on the west coast of the South Island coming up. I think it's next week. And they're gathering to protest what they consider as anti-government policies for the region. And a lot of those are unfortunately focused in on agriculture. The ones that are very topical at the moment are fresh water. Yes, everyone wants swimmable rivers in a generation. That's how we get there and where the costs fall and lie. And there's consultation that's just closed, and farmers are up in arms about the speed that the Labor Green government want to take farmers through. And it appears to me that farmers are going to bear the brunt of these regulations, where regional councils and point source discharges from sewage systems are certainly changes that are needed there, but they appear to be down the track. So you've got that issue, you've got the tree issue, you've got agriculture potentially coming into the ETS down the track, and all of those things on top of M. Bovis and the Reserve Bank telling the banks that they need to be tougher on rural lenders, and now they're demanding not only interest but principal. So you overlay all of those issues, and farmer sentiment is not that flash right now. So what the Sunday program did show on, obviously, Sunday night was that farmers are feeling a bit browbeaten. They don't feel very loved. And, of course, what we do in this country is produce some of the best protein in the world and most efficiently when you think about climate change in the environment. So I think a lot of it is rhetoric, and what the Sunday program did show is that farmers are trying to do their best by and large for the environment.
And I think that's generally the case. There's the occasional bad egg, as there is in any segment of society. But all of this makes this achievement of the zero carbon bill even more remarkable. I've got a statement here from Dairy New Zealand, and basically it says, I think we can do this. So it's interesting that more segments of the community than you may expect have come on board with the zero carbon bill, which proves our system can work every now and again, doesn't it?
Well, I think what it does prove is if you give politicians enough time to talk to communities and the New Zealand public and work a few changes through, that, you know, by and large, the Parliament can work constructively together. Of course, you don't see that very often because the media don't report that. That's right. They prefer to report more of the political scraps.
That's right. I think more people should be forced to watch some of the select committee work, which is where the big cooperation is, really, isn't it? In the select committees.
That's right. Well said, John.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Nathan. It's been a pleasure, and perhaps we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Okay, my friend. All the best.
106.3 Beach FM.